Scald was massively nerfed in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This video will be discussing the distribution of an old move, but no new Pokemon will be spoiled. Scald was removed from Scarlet and Violet as a TM and has instead been put in the game as Volcanion's signature move. Considering the fact that Scald was a defensive water Pokemon's strongest tool, so many of the most common Pokemon from last generation such as Toxapex, Slowbro, Slowking, and Suicune are heavily nerfed as a result. So let's take a closer look at the Pokemon that are affected by this, mainly a bunch of water types from OU. Joey, tell me what you think about this.
So honestly, this is a pretty big nerf Toxapex is the big one that comes to mind,
For
right?
sure.
Not being able to Scald burn things is huge. That's how Toxapex beats Pokemon it shouldn't, like Dragonite or like Rillaboom. I think in that sense too, being able to actually switch into resistances, water resistances versus water types in general, like Rillaboom coming in on what could have been a Scald, but now it'll be Surf. Or Dragonite coming in on what could have been a Scald, but now it'll be Surf is so big. Even Gyarados coming in on what could have been a Scald. Like it makes water types worse. And it kind of reminds me of previous generations where now I don't have to fear setting up in front of them.
No, I agree 100%. And I mean, water types in general have been the best defensive Pokemon for quite a while. The pure water type is perfect, right? Defensively.
Yeah.
And now that it's basically lost its best stab move, the freest stab move, and it has to rely on Surf, what are you going to do, right? Like, the whole point of Scald was that it was a status built into an already strong stab move. And now that that's been cut, it basically, it really tarnishes, like, water types as defensive Pokemon in general. Because they're not, as a defensive Pokemon, you need to put on a threat to the offensive Pokemon. You cannot just do damage. You need to either put on status, you need to set up alongside it, or you need to do some type of progress. And now water types as a whole are kind of screwed in that regard. Like you said,
Yeah.
physical attackers in general will take advantage of these things.
I agree. I actually think it's going to make water types run coverage again, right? Like,
Oh,
like
yes.
look at Suicune right there, for instance. One of the most common Suicune sets would be either Calm Mind Rest Talk Scald or Sub Calm Mind Protect Scald, because it could be even things like Rillaboom and Tapu Bulu because of grassy terrain helping them and protect, and most importantly, burning. So if it can't do that, you might even see Calm Mind Ice Beam Suicune now, because that allows it to actually deal with dragon types that would come in, or grass types too. It's just pretty big, but you also won't be seeing Suicune beat Ferrothorn 1v1 anymore,
Yeah,
unless, of
I agree with
course,
you 100% on
pressure
that.
stalls.
You'll probably start
Yeah,
now seeing 2 attack on stuff like Suicune because you can't rely on just a single attack being Surf. Like, it's
exactly.
not strong enough, right? It's just a little bit. I mean, you don't use Scald because of its base power. You use it because of the secondary
And
effect. It
burn,
allows you to
exactly.
beat all these things 1v1 and pressure stall. So stuff like Suicune, that its whole viability came from its ability plus Scald, it's really hurt very badly by this.
Yeah, especially in this new metagame where the power creep is crazy, right? Because I mean, Suicune was tearing it up in Gen 3 and Gen 4 with just Calm
The
Mind
regular
offensive
rest
attacks
talk, right? Back
and
then.
Rest Talk as well.
It
Yes,
wasn't until
it was
Gen
tearing it up
6
there.
when that sub calm mind stuff started coming out.
Yeah,
And then since then,
basically.
it's been tough.
Slowbro probably takes the biggest hit,
For
right?
sure, for sure.
Because now you can't do. I mean, and we talked about it in my video as well. But like, it can't do teleport, which is
Right.
big.
And it
Slack
can't.
off is nerfed, right? It's
Slack off is
APB.
nerfed, right? It can't Scald. It's basically forced to run this body press set.
Yeah,
It can't even
if
run
it need,
Toxic, right? So it's just
if it needs to,
it's in a
it doesn't
very
even. I don't know if it needs body press. I guess for like
well, no,
the
because then
Bisharp.
Heatran will trap you, and Steel types in general will take advantage of you.
That's true, but it could have Surf and Flamethrower still. Like, it could technically still. Like, I feel like 3 attacks. Or
I
like
guess
with
you're
Ice
right
Beam.
because it did used to run Surf
Yeah.
back in like
I don't even
DPP
know
days.
how. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know how much Future Sight is necessary at the moment. Maybe you do something like Slack off Surf, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, and just opt for full coverage, because
Yeah,
it's not like you
we
really
might have to
need
go
hit
back to the
Toxic.
Stone Age, like Gen 5. That's when they used. No, but for real, right? Because like before it
right.
got all
He's
this
right.
teleport future sight stuff, Slowbros were either Calm Mind to attack, or they were 3 attack slack off.
Yeah,
So
he's right.
yeah, the
He's
lack of
completely right.
Scald. I think you're right. A lot of water types will just opt for more offensive stuff. The defensive water type no longer has the ability to put on that big pressure. Look at Toxapex, for example. This guy has been completely gutted. Knockoff has been
No knockoff. Yep.
reportedly removed from its arsenal. Doesn't have
No
Scald either.
Scald.
So now what is this? Like, this Pokemon has to run Liquidation now.
Now, I
Um,
mean, granted, you can still run because it's one of the few that has Toxic, so it still has Toxic.
right. And
It
you can
still
run
has
Poison Jab.
Regenerator.
And you can run Poison
Exactly.
Jab.
It can run Baneful Bunker,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, which is I think fine too. And Haze is still an option too, or you can run the water move like
No,
you said
absolutely, absolutely.
for Heatran. But it's definitely been, like you said, gutted. You can't just sit in there and recover stall. Like, you can
Mm-hmm.
definitely pivot with Regenerator, but you can't do that. So it really makes you think twice as well, because like, I mean, we've lost to Pokemon. Like, let's say we had Dragonite last mon versus Toxapex. We've lost because they burnt us immediately with Scald.
Absolutely.
Whereas,
And
yeah,
on the flip side, we've won, right? Because we burned, right? We
burnt
pulled off
them
some
immediately with
heinous
Scald.
wins. We pulled
Exactly.
off some heinous wins where we Scald burned like 2 or 3 times in a row. Think about how many times your Weavile or Bisharp, it just has to get that SD off on Toxapex or Slowbro. You're going to win. You just have to not get burned. Too bad. Hold that
There's a
burn.
really, dude, there's a really big like sigh of relief, especially whenever I go back and play old gens. When I
Hmm.
switch in my Dragonite or my Ferrothorn,
Yeah,
or not
yeah.
Ferrothorn, excuse me, not Ferrothorn because there's Scald in that generation,
Biscoja.
but
No,
like
I know what you mean.
my
Gen 4, your
my
setup
Dragon, yeah,
sweepers, you don't have to worry about
yeah,
it
I can
ever.
switch in my Dragonite something if I've scouted that they don't have Ice Beam, like
You never have to worry about
even
that
look at
shit.
something like Skarmory, right? Skarmory, Spadef Skarmory, or even not even Spadef, or
Oh,
even Corviknight. These mons not being able to be burnt is so big
I
because
agree with that a lot because
yeah,
Scarm, I loved running that, and then these random scalds would do like 40%, but then they burn you, so you're
burn you.
screwed.
They burn you.
Can't
Exactly.
do
So now you
shit.
no longer have your body pressure, your Brave Bird or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
And you
You
can't
suck
beat the
worse
mon in
versus
front of
setup.
you either. It's just horrible.
Exactly, exactly. So this is big. It's a really big thing. In fact, one of the reasons back in Gen 4, I'm remembering that Spadef Skarmory started rising up and it actually was able to tank like +1 Suicune Surf,
For
+1
sure, for
Suicune's
sure. Yes,
Hydro
but
and
F
like
Skarmory is.
phased
I
up.
remember it could take on Alakazam and stuff to some degree as
Exactly.
well.
It wasn't bad. And now that bulky waters are being completely gutted, I don't know what like they're obviously like shifting towards a way of making games faster and not
Super
as
fast paced.
yeah.
Like, that being said, it kind of confuses me, right? Because I thought the Scald Nerf was absolutely fine from Gen 6 to Gen. It was Gen 6 to Gen 7, right? When Scald went to 6% per turn.
Yeah, Gen
Yeah,
7.
Gen 7. I thought that was an incredible nerf. I mean, to a degree, it turned Pokemon like Keldeo into UU Pokemon,
Yeah,
right? Because it can't burn its
them worse.
counters. I mean, it can
Exactly.
burn its counters, but 6% is nothing compared to
I had an
12.
Aegislash with leftovers at 1 HP surviving burn.
12.5% burn was absolutely broken. In my opinion, that's why Scald was broken back in the day because I mean, it's super
It
cheap.
was
You
burn
can't
that was broken.
double a
Agreed.
burned Pokemon in. You take rocks plus
Yeah.
burn, that's 25%. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You don't get anything out of that.
And
Like,
then in Generation 7, 8, we had leftovers literally heals it back.
exactly.
Right?
Leftovers healed it back, so it was a lot easier to deal with. So I thought Scald really took a heavy nerf in the last 2 gens. So I was actually really surprised by their decision to just,
Got it.
I mean, yeah, because I don't think water types are that like broken. Pex is annoying, but I mean, and I already know what happened at Game Freak headquarters. They literally had a red alert meeting, and they were like, "We need to do something about the Pex," and then they killed everything that made it good. Literally.
I think a lot of it had to do with Battle Stadium singles more than
Hmm.
VGC in this one because I feel
Oh
like
yeah, for
Skull was
sure.
because like you can do a lot with that in this generation. So it's and same thing with Corviknight, like being able to roost as well. That nerf as well, I think came a lot from that. But
And I
I
mean,
mean, you
I
have
understand
Slowking.
too from like a what's it called, like a fun and not fun perspective. Like
Mm,
nobody likes pressure stall and all that shit too.
I
So
love it.
okay, except for my boy Aim here, big
I just
fan.
don't use I just don't use my favorite Pokemon just because people will complain.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to pressure stall an opponent, but it's horrible to watch and be on the receiving end. So I feel like I understand what they're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, I get it. But like the ability to beat a Pokemon that you normally couldn't, but out of like, timing and things like that. Like I had a tournament game where I fought a Jellicent which 6 on my team with taunt,
mhm.
and I was able to pressure stall it with Suicune by doubling in on taunts, going for moves that didn't work on it,
Yeah,
and then resting off. So I was able to
but I bet you,
take a bunch of
yeah,
swings.
yeah, damn.
So it's just something that could do that. Like I mean, and like I said, it really changes these mons a lot. Like you have Seismitoad there, which is just
What's he gonna
completely.
run now? You're gonna run Surf, Liquidation? Like, this shit doesn't exactly have, like, you know what I
It didn't
mean?
really have much. It didn't
When
really have much
on a
that could actually
defensive
run
Toad now, like,
regardless. Yeah.
is it even worth running Scald now? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, not
well, it
Scald. Is it
still
even
is
worth
going to
running a water
be.
move?
It is still going to have it's still going to have Toxic because it's actually one of the Pokemon that learn Toxic naturally, I believe,
Yeah,
by level up. This
he
is like
looked
where I
like
was at.
he looks like the type to learn Toxic.
Yeah,
His
yeah,
design looks very like he learns Toxic.
yeah.
So
I
that's
feel
cool
that.
at least. Like, he probably still gets Stealth Rock too. So
Eldar Toxic, Earthquake,
yeah,
or whatever.
he'll be alright.
I guess Protect. I don't know. Protect.
Slowking gets hit by this really tough. Slowking
Yes.
regular. When have you ever seen a Slowking regular without Scald?
Yeah.
Literally doesn't
Yeah.
exist. Same with, I mean,
Yeah.
we already talked about
We
Suicune.
used to have
But yeah.
the set we used to have back in the day was with Assault Vest, right? You have like Skull, Dragon Tail,
Oh
Future
yeah,
Sight.
way back in Gen 6.
hmm
Yeah.
It's a big thing for Slowking. I do think that Combine offensive waters like Slowking though are good for this too because um,
Did you get
with the
Hydro Pump?
toxic nerf as well as
Ooh.
the toxic nerf as well as the I didn't mean offensive like that. I just meant
No, no,
combat
no.
like
I have an
offensive.
Assault Vest Hydro Pump Slowking team. It may be
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
The only option now.
I just think you can actually set up in front of bulky waters too if you're a bulky water as well without being fear of being burnt, right? Like Gyarados couldn't set up in front of Skull because it was fearing, but
Oh,
even the special attacker
that's
like
true.
Slowking, like having leftovers cancel out burn or having burn cancel out leftovers could be detrimental, right? Instead,
Yeah.
now it just does it and sets up. So I think it's a pretty cool option for this mod. It's weird though. I have no idea how the metagame is going to be, but hey, less Toxapex. I'm sure a lot of people will be
Yeah.
happy.
I think the one thing that I just thought about with what you just said, saying like you were saying that you can set up on these bulkier waters is now stuff like Toxapex staying in versus each other, like two Toxapex going for burn, going for knock, that doesn't exist anymore.
Ah,
And
hell yeah.
so I
Now they'll
think
put toxic, toxic,
so
toxic.
like what you said is so true. I think like they really want a fast paced game now.
Yeah.
Like that's the only explanation to me. But yeah, I'm definitely really excited. As we went through this, it was pretty interesting to me. Like I thought a lot of these mods got completely screwed, but I think you showed that Seismitoad and Slowbro are definitely going to be okay. But Suicune and Pex, you know, hit a little bit harder. Pex still does have. Fortunately, the toxic mons are pretty lucky because having the poison typing is really really solid.
I
But
will say though that Suicune specifically had the subcom mine protect one.
mhm,
It can still for sure work. Like you
for
just
sure,
use surf on it, right? And I've used it in Gen 4 when Duckshaw was around because you just trap Tyranitar and then you use
yeah,
another member to set up
a
rain
different
dance
weather,
or
right? Yeah, and then you get your
exactly
leftovers
just to
back.
get rid of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it can for sure you can still pressure stall. The rest set is already nerfed by the fact that rest has 8 PP, so that makes a
Oh.
big difference with Suicune.
And this
But I
meta's
do
too
think that
offensive paced. I don't think you're gonna get any time to rest talk anymore. Currently
yeah,
in this
yeah.
meta,
Currently, at least, but
we'll
wherever
see what
Suicune ends
happens.
up, RU, NU, UU, whatever the hell
Suicune
Suicune ends
always
up.
finds a way too, but
Yeah,
yeah, no Scald is definitely gonna be tough. Just the ability to force your. Because the best part about Suicune Scald to me was like if you burn something like Zapdos, right? Sure, you're only gonna do like 22, 25%. But
that's
you're gonna
dead.
at
That's
least get a
it.
free turn eventually where he has to
Yeah,
recover, and then
boost
you're
exactly. And
setting
you get
up and he's
combine.
fucked.
It's
He's
over.
done. Like you know what I
It's
mean?
over.
You're always gonna get that
Yeah.
one turn when you burn. So that is a one thing about burn that I really, really loved with these Pokemon. But yep, I think we basically covered everything. Let us know in the comments below, guys, what you think. Definitely give this video a big like. Go check out Joe. He on his way to 400K. I'm on my way to 200K. Sub to both of us. And yeah, go check out his channel. We did a great video on his as well. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.